Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, this is Boisterous coming to you with some Masters League Magnificence out of the map Star Station TE. Spying down here in the bottom right-hand corner, we do have SMI's Dykukun as our red Zerg player, and up here in the top left-hand corner, we have his opponent KLG's Duolonn as our blue Zerg player. And I know I missed the video yesterday, but it's Christmas week, so don't expect too much of me. No, I said I was back, and I'm back, and I swear to God I'm back. Also, you know, big news. Somehow I managed to get back to commentating for a week and kind of become the official commentator for Team Extraterrestrials. I'm going to link a lot of their information down in the chat, but basically, or down in the, you know, that box of information below videos, that description thingy. But basically that just means that I'm going to be producing their videos probably 2-3 times a week. And those are all going to go on their YouTube channel, which will, again, be linked down in the chat. I do believe it's like Extraterrestrials. They also have an official website you can go sign up on, all that stuff. You know, go check it out. They're an awesome group of guys. They've been actually kicking ass lately. They landed second in the UASL, which is amazing for a team that I think was like 4 months old at that point. They have a pretty impressive roster. I know Jouge is on there, and I could look up the rest of the names, but I don't have them open on the second monitor, and honestly, Jouge is the only one I can remember because I can't forget his name because I always think it's Jouge, but apparently it's Jouge, and I'm not supposed to call him Jouge anymore. I'm gonna call him Jouge for the rest of my life. Don't tell them that. It's a secret for me and for you. Alright, so anyway, we have a spawning pool coming out from Duolonn, and actually the hatch first from Dykukun, so Dykukun's actually going to be a little bit further ahead than his opponent at this point. I mean, having that hatchery out earlier, especially versus like a 14 hatch, is very nice. Because there's really nothing Duolonn's going to be able to do to put early pressure on him in this early stage of the game. There's really, I mean, he could send Zerglings across the map, but honestly, they're probably going to get to Dykukun's base at around the same time his finishes. Maybe a little bit earlier. Zerglings take, what, 20 seconds to build, and then this map distance, or 24 seconds to build, and this map distance is probably 20-30 seconds for a Zergling to run, so they would probably get around the exact same time. Is when they would get to their opponent's base, but it doesn't really matter. Duolonn's only making one pair of Zerglings, and he's going to be sending those out on a scout mission. Where are they actually going to? Oh, they're just going right for the natural. So yeah, they're just going to scout it out. They're going to see that the hatchery is there, and then they're going to go like, well, I mean, there's not a whole lot we can do about that. The other thing that Duolonn is really going to have running in his favor is the fact that he is going to have queens up earlier, which is an amazingly important part of ZVZ. Now, of course, Dykukun is going to have a second queen up earlier than his opponent, but for a little bit here, a little buffer, Duolonn's economy is actually going to be a little bit stronger. Actually, no, the way that Duolonn's doing it is actually perfect, and they will both have 2 queens up at around the same time. So really, both players playing this off quite well. I mean, they both went different strategies, but in the end, they're probably going to end up at about the same point in the game. Dykukun's a little bit further ahead. He has 2 extra workers. However, that should even out with this first hatchery burst from Duolonn. As soon as the larva bursts the first time, it should get up to pretty even in there. We have 5 drones on the way, and Dykukun's going to take a little bit to catch up with that. So that, plus the fact that I think did Duolonn just snipe off a worker? Yeah, he did. That's actually amazing. I'm surprised that happened. He managed to kill off a worker with just 2 Zerglings. That's pretty huge at this point in the game, and that will put him a little bit ahead on workers. Not amazingly so, but you know, every little bit helps. And actually, Dykukun's producing another 4 Zerglings. Both of our players are playing this off a little bit more aggressive than I would have expected. Actually, 10 Zerglings coming out from Dykukun. He might just be going for it. He is. That is 20 Zerglings coming out from Dykukun. He's just going for a Speedling bust right now. We do have Extractors going down, so this isn't going to be an all-in, but it's definitely a heavy commitment to this early pressure, and I'm not sure if it's really going to help him out, because we are going to have Banelings out from Duolonn, and these Zerglings might manage to hit the front of Duolonn before that Baneling nest finishes, but if he doesn't, Dykukun's going to be in deep trouble. He really needs to get into the space before these Banelings finish, and it's not going to happen. These Banelings are already almost done. Looks like there is just 7 more seconds left, so these Zerglings are going to have impeccable control to dodge these Banelings, and here they go. Oh, they see the Banelings, and they are freaking scared. As soon as you see Banelings and you're a giant pack of Zerglings, you get warded. I mean, there's really no way to add that. And it looks like one reasonable Baneling hit happens, and the rest of these Zerglings will be able to pin Duolonn inside of his base, But honestly, Dykukun spent so much of his money that could have gone to workers on that attack that actually, whoa, he's up 5 workers. Never mind. You know, okay. So Dykukun, good job with that pressure. I guess not building the Baneling Nest actually saved him a ton of money, which makes sense. It also puts him out considerably ahead on tech. So actually, this Speedling Bus, amazingly useful for Dykukun. Man, I'm learning new stuff about this game every day. Oh man, sometimes I just feel like a noob. That's because I am. Haha, I just fake it. Alright, anyway, we are going to have 7 drones coming out for Duolonn, and that should put him almost even on workers again, which is going to be nice. He does have a layer up a little bit later than his opponent. His defenses are a little bit stronger up at the front, but I'm not sure if that's going to be amazingly useful. It looks like we have quite a few Zerglings that are going to be going for an attack on Dykukun's base. Dykukun actually doesn't have a Spine Caller up yet. He is now finally getting his own Banelings, so he should be able to ward off an attack from Duolonn, and that's amazingly important because Duolonn's coming down hard right now. He has 6 Banelings moving in. So if Dykukun can land a favorable hit with these Banelings, he should be perfectly fine. It looks like the third from Dykukun is going to get scouted here, and I could see Duolonn canceling this base actually, and that's going to be huge. It looks like we are going to have these 4 Banelings moving in, and they are going to just be defending this group of Zerglings, and this group of Zerglings might just be able to manage to kill off this hatchery. It looks like 1 Baneling will go off, another Baneling will go off, just killing off 1 Zergling, and this micro battle is going to be intense, but Duolonn should be able to snipe off this hatchery, and there we go, Duolonn finally taking a little bit of a lead here now that he has that third base of his opponent dead. And I don't think that was even canceled for Dykukun, and that is huge. I actually didn't see a cancel there, which is pretty scary. Dykukun is, of course, ahead on his Spire by about 60 seconds, which should give him a nice buffer. However, Duolonn, I'm not sure if he knows about it. If he doesn't, he's not going to get any of those Spore Crawlers down, which will actually put him a little bit behind, especially if Dykukun can actually manage to come out here with his Mutalisks and snipe off the Spire of his opponent, because the Spire, or the Mutalisks from Dykukun should be able to get across the map before the Mutalisks from Duolonn even pop. So we are going to have this engagement happening at the third base of Duolonn. However, with nice defensive Banelings, he should be able to hold it. And oh my god, that was a horrible spot for that Baneling to go. Another Baneling not getting the connection he needs. And actually, this Queen's going to go down, and it looks like these drones are going to be in trouble as they are forced to fight this off alone. It looks like we are going to have a Baneling coming in and saving the day. But Duolonn losing quite a few workers. They're still ending up ahead because, again, he has the base versus his opponent, who, of course, does not have the base. But that was definitely a little bit of a hit. It looks like we do have an Overseer morphing for Duolonn, and he will be moving right into the main base. So he will see the Mutalisks and the Spire, but he will see them just a little bit too late. And these 13 Mutalisks will be able to do quite a bit of damage. And there, the Overseer is like, oh, that's what I was getting built to see. Oh, hey guys, you boned. Because Duolonn is gonna be in trouble right here. He does not have really any air defense other than these queens, and 1 queen per base is not gonna be enough to save him. He's going to need to have impeccable Mutalisk control here, and he does not want to fly these Mutalisks into his opponent. That is not going to go well. It looks like he is flying a group of Zerglings in to split the damage from his Mutalisks, which is a good strategy. Of course, if you do clump up units with each other, it means that the bounces that are meant for Mutalisks will actually bounce to Zerglings, which actually makes Mutalisks live a lot longer, because if you can manage to get both the 3 damage and the 1 damage bounce onto Mutalisks, it cuts down your opponent's damage by like by about 30-40%, and it's really huge. And it looks like we are going to have an engagement happening here. We do have a couple of queens, and these queens are going to be amazingly important in this engagement. Dykukun's Mutalisk force is definitely higher, and it looks like that force might actually just be able to strong arm its way through. No, not quite. It looks like it's going to be down to 4 Mutalisks for both sides. Duolonn coming out a little bit ahead on the cash front, and of course on the health front. So I think Duolonn got out of that a little bit ahead. If we look at the unit count yet again, Duolonn slightly ahead in workers, a little bit behind in Mutalisks, but he's pretty comfortable with that considering the fact that his production is going to be a lot better than his opponent's. Especially considering the fact they didn't lose any queens. I think he lost a transmute worth of energy, which is a little bit annoying because that's just, that's a couple of injects that aren't going to happen or aren't going to happen on time, which isn't great. However, now he knows what his opponent's doing. He knows enough to get Spore Crawlers out. He has a Spore Crawler at both of his bases that really need them. So he should be in a pretty good spot to defend himself at this point. It looks like we are going to have a small group of Zerglings heading in here, and actually a small group of Zerglings heading into every base. That is extremely well split from Dykukun, but Duolonn is in position already to fight it off. It looks like maybe as his drone will go down, maybe 2, but it's not going to be anything too bad. It looks like a full flock of Neos is going to be winging in and managing to snipe off a Queen. However, it will be frightened off here. Losing that Queen is a little bit bad for Duolonn, but I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. He should be producing more Queens just to help with home defense, honestly. Because once Dykukun gets a few more Duelists, it's gonna start getting scary. And losing this amount of production, because making a Queen is losing like 8 larvae worth of production, and that's not a great situation to be in. It looks like we are going to have a full-on Duelist battle happening here, but Duolonn closer to his reinforcements should just be able to crush through Dykukun here, and oh, that is not nice for Dykukun. He is going to lose a lot of his Duelists though. However, Duolonn does lose a few workers, but I think Duolonn's perfectly fine with that. I think that might have put him down in workers. No, he's still up by 6. So honestly, Duolonn at this point is really picking Dykukun apart just by forcing him to make kind of bad choices. I mean, Dykukun's doing a good job. Man, I really wish these players had more distinct names than Dykukun and Duolonn. But you know, Dykukun, the red Zerg player, is doing a nice job of just poking damage, but he's picked some pretty ugly fights. Like that last fight where he just went straight in with Mutalisks, you really, unless you know you have the crushing force and you're going in for the, like literally the kill, like you're like, all right, he doesn't have enough Spore Crawlers, he doesn't have enough Queens. If I attack him right now and kill all of his Mutalisks, I can win the fucking game. If you don't know that straight up, you don't want to go for an attack like that where you fight Mutalisks at your opponent's base. Because of course, having that reinforcement chain closer means that they will outnumber your Mutalisks. They will. Especially if you're on about even economies, and even then Dykukun was down at that point. So it looks like we are going to have a small group of Leviathans happening here, a little bit of an engagement happening with just Mutalisk on Mutalisk, but Duolonn, his army is just too big. He has about 6 more Mutalisks than his opponent. Actually, no, he has about 1 more Mutalisk than his opponent. But again, those Zerglings on the ground are going to basically act like another 1 or 2 Mutalisks just purely because of the bounces, not doing the amount of damage they should be doing. It looks like we are going to have a little bit of a ground engagement here, but oh my god, Dykukun not controlling his Mutalisks as well. They are going to be pulled out of position there. And it looks like all of the Zerglings will be going down. A couple of good transmutes are going to be going down on these Mutalisks. I'm not sure. It looks like he will be able to crush Duolonn in this fight. However, he will lose quite a few Queens here as the Zerglings just managed to pick those off. But again, I mean, coming out like this in a Mutalisk versus Mutalisk fight, that is huge. But it looks like Duolonn is going to be moving in here. He will be able to do quite a bit of damage to just the mineral lines of his opponent. It looks like a couple of Banelings are actually coming on. If those Banelings pop, this could get a little bit scary. The Banelings! Oh, the Banelings! Oh, they're not going for the Banelings. The Banelings are going to be frightening. He really just needs to pull away his opponent's workers, but it's not quite that. He only gets 4 workers killed on there, but 24 workers killed for Duolonn. That's huge. He's now ahead by an insane amount of workers, actually up by 9 workers at this point, which is huge in his EVZ. But again, he is so far down in Mutalisk. It's 25 to 8 Mutalisk. He lost every one of his Mutalisks to do that damage. And unless he can reinforce that army fast and get a good amount of Spore Crawlers up, he is not going to be able to win these engagements. He is going to have to sacrifice his 4th base, which is a huge loss for him, especially considering the fact that Dykukun is up to his 4th base. It's going to be painful for Duolonn at this point, but he's going to have to hold on basically just by on the ropes. He's completely on the ropes right now. And it looks like we are going to have to fly by into the main base, and there are actually just a few Spore Crawlers. But if Dykukun can kind of stay in this middle ground here, he can actually do this sort of juggling thing that you kind of see a lot of players do, where they kind of bounce in between Spore Crawler shots. And they bounce in, they get in once, they throw a volley, they bounce in, they get in once. And that's because the attack speed on a Spore Crawler is actually faster than the attack speed on a Mutalisk. So it's better to just fly in, hit them once, and then fly out before it can get a second shot out. And then you just do that over and over again. It's very similar to what players did in Brood War. It's basically the exact same thing. It is why Mutalisks are so brutal at killing off air defense, and it's why the Spore Crawler buff had to happen, because if they didn't do 3 times damage to Mutalisks, it was like they didn't even touch Mutalisks. Because it took like 8 shots to kill off a Mutalisk, and if you had a Mutalisk flock of this size, you were probably taking down Spore Crawlers in 3 shots. So, I mean, it took you 3 Spore Crawlers that were all targeting the same Mutalisk to actually lose a Mutalisk, which is not a good scenario. Now, of course, Spore Crawlers are just frightening, but, you know, it looks like we are going to have Duolonn continuing to do these run-bys that I should be noting more often, because honestly both of our players have been doing an impeccable job at sending them after their opponents. But, you know, I'm more focused on talking about Brood War and reminiscing, because Brood War. It looks like we are going to have Duolonn sending out yet another patrol of Zerglings out to this right-hand side of the map, and they will be diving straight down, going right for this third base of Dykukun. And this is, again, a completely unprotected base, and Dykukun really should get some better scouting information out here, because these are going to start getting brutal for him. It looks like we are going to have a Queen potentially going down here. Actually, no, the Baneling will manage to save it. And it looks like these Zerglings will be running off. However, this continuous back and forth of Dykukun pulling his opponent away from the front is really saving Duolonn's life, because at this point, or at least 10 seconds ago, Dykukun had the army where it was like 8 Mutalisks versus 25 Mutalisks, and Dykukun could have just busted through and just started mass creating Zerglings. However, at this point, Duolonn's really starting to catch up again. He is still down that base, which is a huge thing. However, I mean, it's a possibility that he can fight. Being down in upgrades is not a great situation, but he's going to be going for it. And with these Spore Callers burrowing, he actually might be able to... No, he's not going to win this. No, God, no. Oh, no. This is going to be a one-sided smash fest. It looks like a lot of Mutalisks for Dykukun are going to go down, but that is not a great situation. A couple of Spore Crawlers will be able to root themselves in the ground. However, I mean, Dykukun just got his entire Mutalisk flock reset again. Now, of course, we do see Duolonn continuing with this harassment policy that is really stopping Dykukun from being able to finish the game. And that's amazingly important at this point. If you look at the units killed, or at the units lost tab, we see that Dykukun is behind, but only slightly. And that is purely because of these run-bys. Because honestly, if he had actually been losing every unit that he had been losing, or if Duolonn had not been gaining back a lot of these losses that he's taking, he would be absolutely crippled right now, and Dykukun would be just insanely ahead on workers. But the fact that he's sneaking these run-bys through is really saving his game, and even saving this base, to be quite perfectly honest. Because those Mutalisks, it would have been dangerous for them to take it out, but it would have been worth it. Because stomping your opponent down to 4 bases yet again would have probably been a pretty solid victory for him. It looks like we are going to have Dykukun forced to protect his base yet again. Is there a run-by happening? No, the Mutalisks are just being vigilant. There is a run-by that's about to be happening here, though, and it is going to be sprinting right by into the main base, but the Mutalisks are already there, so they will not get very far. Maybe one drone, but it doesn't really matter at this point. Oh, actually, they did manage to kill a Baneling, which is pretty nice. Not the hugest kill, but, it's better than doing nothing with that group of Zerglings, and that group of Zerglings definitely looked like they were going to be doing nothing. Look at the units tab again. We have Dykukun actually up by about 15 Mutalisks at this point, especially with the production that's going on right now. But of course, Duolonn is managing to get his +2 armor up, and that +2 armor is an amazingly important upgrade, because it means that the Mutalisk bounces from your opponent actually do 7, 1, and then a fraction of 1 damage. Which is frightening, because you never want to be in a situation where you're doing a fraction of 1 damage. Now, of course, Dykukun is actually up to +2 attack, so he will be able to completely cancel that out, and actually it'll just be an even Mutalisk versus Mutalisk, aka pure numbers fight, and maybe some bounce luck, but bounce RNG isn't really that important, purely because of how little damage the secondary bounces do compared to that first hit. The target fire from the first hit is far more important than the bounces landing well. It looks like we are going to have the 5th base from Duolonn getting sniped again, and Dykukun, of course, wants to do that because he doesn't want Duolonn to get up a base on him, because he knows he's playing against a good player. Duolonn has shown that Dykukun is not going to win him. It's not going to be a pushover fight, and Dykukun does not want that base to go up, because Duolonn's actually doing a very nice job of actually spending his money appropriately, where he's creating Mutalisks when he can, and then creating Zerglings when he can't make any more Mutalisks. Whereas if you look at Dykukun, he has an insane gas bank, and this is primarily because his 4th base isn't really doing anything other than just mining gas. If you look at Duolonn's bases, they're actually just producing everything, but because of how much damage that Duolonn's actually been able to pull off on his opponent, Dykukun is starting to lose that kind of mental balance and mental fortitude. And I think he's starting to lose his ability to really focus on his drone count, because he has 3 drones in every extractor except for the ones that are mined out, and yeah, he's 3 drones in every extractor, but he does not have nearly that many drones on the list. And it looks like we are going to have another engagement happening here, but oh my god, Duolonn with a crazy amount of Mutalisks here. I can't even tell what's happening right now. This is just a clusterfuck of flying birds. And it looks like Duolonn will be able to force his opponent back. Finally, you know, I would say he won that fight just barely. Coming out about 4 Mutalisks ahead, which is a pretty good margin, especially considering the fact that his production is yet again much more on pace than his opponents. Now, of course, once Dykukun begins to actually get the minerals to get his gas bank down, he's going to be in a much better spot, but until that happens, it's going to be pretty rough for him. He is still managing to keep ahead in upgrades. Currently, they're even, basically. It's 1-2 versus 2-1, but that's essentially even when you're just having same unit wars. Because it literally just comes down to numbers. However, once the second Carapace comes up, Duolonn's going to be doing significantly less damage because again, that third bounce is doing a fraction. He's actually going to be doing 3 less damage per Mutalisk swing. Because the first one deals less damage, the second one deals less damage, and the third one deals less damage. So it's actually like 2.8 because again, the third attack still does damage. It just does a fraction of a damage because StarCraft damage cannot be reduced to 0. I do not believe. I'm pretty sure. I might sound like an idiot, and me preaching that is just stupid, but I'm like 80% sure that's how it works. But again, might be stupid. Still not confirmed. I cannot confirm nor deny that. It looks like Duolonn is actually interestingly going for Hydralisks, which is a surprise, especially considering the amount of money he's been dumping into these upgrades. Hydralisks without upgrades can be good against Mutalisks, but the issue is that unless you can get a really large amount of them and get speed out for them, you're not going to catch your opponent. You're just not. The Mutalisks are going to fly circles around you, which is a danger. They're really great defensive units, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to actually push out offensively with them against his opponent. It's going to be a rough spot. Now, of course, both of our players are going to be posturing around the 5th base of Duolonn at this point. Duolonn trying to protect this as best he can, but Dykukun is kind of just circling like a raven at this point, or crow. He's circling like a bird of prey. I know ravens aren't birds of prey, but they're all I could think of. Vultures. That was the bird I wanted. Man, gotta love them brain farts. Alright, so anyway, we are going to have Duolonn just flying around with these Mutalisks. If we look at the Mutalisk count, it looks like it's going to be 46 to 31. Really? Shit. Dykukun's actually really far behind, but that's primarily because he is the one that's going for that Hydra tech. He does have muscular augments on the way, which makes those Hydralisks much faster, but those Hydralisks, unless they're on creep, still not as fast as Mutalisks. And I think if they're on creep, they're just barely as fast as Mutalisks. But I actually don't know what the speed of Hydralisks with muscular augments are. What is the speed of Hydras with muscular augments? That is the question. That is the question. Let's see. The move speed's going to get boosted here, and it goes up to 2.81, which is not nearly close to Mutalisks. Mutalisks are 4. So it's 2.81 plus 0.56, so it's about 3.25 on creep. So they're just about 1 block slower than Mutalisks, which is a little bit annoying. It means that, you know, the Mutalisks could get ahead of them, the Hydralisks are never going to catch them, which is pretty important. However, if he can manage to get these Infestors to land, I did not even notice he was building Infestors, but he is. I noticed the Pathogen Glands, but I thought it was the Overlord pickup thing, and I was just like, I'm not even going to talk about that. That's just not smart. But, you know, it's not Vengeful Sax. Vengeful Sax is completely different looking upgrades. It's Purple Sax from a different angle. Man, sometimes I am just great at talking about this game. I am absolutely fantastic. Looks like Duolonn with an impressive Mutalisk flock at this point. He really doesn't want to clump it up anymore. I'm not sure if he actually knows about these Infestors, and oh god, he does not. Oh god, he had no idea about those Infestors. Ouch! Oh, the Infestors! Oh, Duolonn, no! Oh god, no, gonna pop! Oh god, no! Oh, there's the game. That's it. Wow! Wow! Oh god! And that is why you always make sure your opponent isn't making Infestors when you're going up against Mutalisks, because you need to magic box those sons of bitches. You really need to magic box them. If you go into a fight like that where you're A-moving with Mutalisks, oh god, something like that happens. Ugh, that was a little bit ugly to watch. So anyway, guys, check out in the description below for all the links, including all the information on Extraterrestrial. I will, of course, be upgrading to their YouTube channel about 3 times a week. Starting probably next week, I'll also be doing a lot of official streams for them, which I'll actually start tweeting about, because I've heard Twitter is a pretty good website, and I've actually made an account over at Boisterous SC2. Also, link down in the description. Go ahead and check that out. So, anyway, follow me on Twitter, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to Extraterrestrials, and be ready to follow their Twitch channel as soon as I figure out what their Twitch address is. So anyway, guys, this is Boisterous, signing out.